I'm Charlie Harden. I'm with Harris Brothers. Our office phone number is 304-343-5566. I'm going to go over some maintenance concerns for the boiler room equipment, and we're going to start with the hot water pumps. And we have 4 pumps in here, 2 for the chill water and 2 for the hot water. The chill water pumps are bigger, however the maintenance on all 4 pumps is the same. So we'll go over with the hot water pump. On the front of the pump you have a suction diffuser. There's 4 bolts that hold it on, and inside of it there are vanes. So you would take those 4 bolts loose, you pull out the suction diffuser, and there is a screen and there are inlet vanes and an orifice. You just need to make sure that they are all clean. And then there's also a rubber gasket that goes around the inside of this plate. You need to make sure that gasket is still pliable, there's no cracks, debris, anything in that, and then you put it all back together and tighten it down, and that's the maintenance on that. On the pump itself, you need to make sure that you're using the correct grease, and the correct grease that they want is a polyurea based grease. They recommend ExxonMobil Polyrex EM. On these motors and pumps, there is a total of 4 grease fittings. There are 2 on the gearbox and 2 on the actual motor itself. They recommend that you change that you grease these motors every 300 hours of use. So basically that's going to be once a year. And that's roughly it. Now underneath there's a cover that covers the coupling. If you take that cover off, the coupling's in there, and it's a rubber-based coupling, so if you see shavings in the bottom, that means that that pump can possibly be out of an alignment. And at that point, you would have to replace that coupling. But there's a couple set screws that slides apart. You can get a new coupling and put it back in. But that shouldn't be unless you have an issue. So that's basically it on all the pumps. The speed drives, these pumps are ran by a speed drive, and about the only maintenance you need to do on a speed drive is you would shut everything down, check the connections, look at the contactors in there to make sure that the contacts, are clean. And then on the outside, there are vents for the fans to cool it down. You need to make sure those vents are free of debris and dust. The 4 grease fittings I was talking about, this is your gearbox. There is one here, there's one down in this hole, and then there's one on the front of the pump motor and one on the back of the motor. So that's the 4 grease fittings there. And that's about it on these. All right, so what we have here is a side stream water filter. Inside of this there is a bag filter, and it needs to be changed whenever your pressure drop across this goes above 5 psi. So whatever your inlet pressure is, if it's higher than 5 psi, it's time to change that filter. And in order to change that filter, you will isolate this whole system, okay? And you do that right here. There's 2 valves. You just turn these valves, and then you will drain it right here, okay? Once it's drained, you take this top off. There's a big rubber gasket, O-ring, underneath this cap. Set this aside, and you pull the old filter out. Once you take the filter out, you want to make sure it's clean inside, so get a water hose, hose the inside of it out, make sure it's all nice and clean. Same thing with the gasket and the cap. You want to make sure there's no debris in that, make sure the rubber O-ring is good and pliable, and then you will put your new filter back in there. And then what you want to do is you want to crack one of these open, and you want to fill this whole canister, get all the air out of it. Once you get all the air out of it, then you put the lid on, tighten it down, shut this valve, then open it back up. But you want to try to get all the air out of this before you open these valves up. So you don't want to just drop the filter in there, put the cap on, and open these up, because you just introduced, 5 gallons or 10 gallons of air into the system. You don't want to do that. So you want to try to don't just open one valve to let this thing purge all the air, and then tighten everything down. And that's basically it on this. The same setup is on the chill water system also. It's over here, it's insulated, so you gotta take the insulation cap off. We'll walk over there and I'll show that to you. But it's the exact same system. Okay, so this is the chill water side stream filter, exactly the same as the hot water. It's just covered in insulation, so you gotta remove a little bit of insulation, do the exact same procedure. So what we have here is an expansion tank. This is a pressurized vessel, and it is supposed to be set at 12 psi air pressure. The way you check that, there is a little needle valve, just like a bicycle tire, right here, and you should read 12 psi. If for some reason it was off, this is also where you would add or subtract pressure. However, you should never have to mess with this. If you get water out of this, that means the bladder is busted and this tank is no longer good. There is really any maintenance to these. However, you want to check that 12 psi. This is the one for the hot water system. There's also one for the chill water system. It is also at 12 psi. So this is the chill water one. Basically the same thing, just smaller. It is also set at 12 psi. And you operate it the same way. That needle valve is under here. And that's basically it for your expansion tanks. All right, so this here is the glycol feeder for both systems. This one actually has 2 pumps in it, and those pumps are they're permanently lubricated, so there is no greasing or oiling of those pumps necessary. So the way these work is you have 2 pumps, one for the hot water system, one for the chill water system. This happens to be your hot water, and this is your chill water. These are check valves, so if the system for some reason would overpressure, it will vent back to this tank through these check valves. So whenever you're not adding glycol to the system, you want these valves shut off, because we do not want system pressures constantly hitting these check valves. So the maintenance issue, or maintenance for this unit, is you have a Y strainer right here and right here. So you would isolate these strainers, and then you pull this cap off and there's a strainer inside. And the same thing, you make sure that strainer's clean, make sure the body's clean of the strainer valve body, and then make sure that there's an O-ring on this cap also. Once again, make sure that it's free of debris, it's pliable, and in good working condition. Then you put those back together. So to operate this, you would turn your pump switch from off to hand, and then whatever system you're doing, heating, you would turn it to hand, and then it'll pump, and you watch your pressures to get it where you want it. Vice versa, you do that the same with the heating or the cooling system. And that's basically it on these glycol feeder.